Good afternoon, I'm Darin Lovett. I'm the Executive Director of the iLAuNCH Trailblazer. I want to thank the Andy Thomas Space Foundation for inviting us to speak on the Trailblazer, and it's really a pleasure to be here at this 15th session. I was here for the first in May 2016, and there were about 30 people down there, and I'm sure 2 of them or at least were getting a free lunch as they wandered in off the street. Back at that time, I told my stepfather, who had stories. He worked at Woomera. He was a 10-pound Brit that came over on a boat to work on the Eldo program and things like Long Tom and some of the sounding rockets. And I told him what was happening in Australia in space, and he was astounded. He couldn't believe that we'd actually recreated an industry that had effectively been lost for 50 years. I'm staggered at what we've all achieved in this room. All of you here are space professionals. And especially noting the difficulties of the space industry. Space is hard. The barrier to entry is high, and you've got to move through demands the utmost excellence in engineering and other areas to get through from that first 300 seconds of launch, cryogenics, lob yourself into a vacuum, survive orbit, 27,000 kilometers an hour, radiation, thermal, etc. It's a really difficult place that makes it hard for space industry. Now, I heard from Enrico earlier today, the Space Agency has aspirational goals to grow the industry, but I put it down to about 2% of the global market if we're going to try and crack this nut. And that's going to be difficult. TRL 9, for say something like an autonomous car, means you can drive the car around and not hit anybody. TRL 9 for space means you have to go through that full gamut of testing and get it up there and make it last for a year or two in that very diverse and difficult environment. So what I'm going to do today is, like Sanjay, go through some quick overview of iLAuNCH and take you through where we're trying to build a space ecosystem. Next slide, please. Oh, it's clicker. Giddy up. Okay, so that's our vision and impact. But basically, I look at it like this. We're trying to build cool stuff and take it through to commercialization. And an important note that we haven't probably described is that the trailblazers that we're talking about are funded by the Department of Education, not by DISA, not by any other department. So there really is this focus on commercialization, on transforming the culture in universities. So we're really focused on really finding a commercial partner that's going to pull that technology out of the labs and commercialize it. The key elements there is that we're fast, 3.5 years. Okay, this matches where most of the SMEs are in the room. We are also focused on the hard stuff, TRL 4 to 8. Okay, so that's getting it up to spaceflight qualification. If we can get it up into space, then that's great. That's going to be gold standard. We're leveraged. We've got $50 million of federal government funding, which is already coming into our coffers to spend. And that's quite different from many of the other portfolios where you have to go back to the department and rebid for your money. They've effectively said, we don't understand space, we don't understand defense, we don't understand all these other trailblazers. You go away and do your stuff. We just want the transformational aspects for the department, which is great. It gives us a lot of freedom to do what we think needs to be done, and especially for industry, to support your needs when you want to commercialize and get out real outcomes. And we've got world-class research, and the third university that I represent is University of Southern Queensland. So it's ANU, which you're all familiar with InSpace and their areas. We've got the University of South Australia, just down the road and around the corner, that's doing great work, and I'll talk about some of those particular projects, and University of Southern Queensland, which is headquartered in Toowoomba, but also has a campus in Springfield. We're very focused. We've got a great leadership team. I'd encourage you to come around and see the iLAuNCH team to the left as you go into the forum area. And we mostly have an industry background. And that means we're not out there to do academia. We're not out there to publish and write papers. We're there to support our customers, which is industry, and also achieve the goals of the Department of Education. And I think it's inspirational. As we all know here, space really inspires. So we are shamelessly using space to build the workforce of the future. And if we can bring students and kids into that workforce, that's also part of our mandate, and spin them off into other areas. Okay, so we've talked about the Trailblazer program broadly. This is just a slide to show you where it comes from, some of the context. So Department of Education noting that we don't commercialise well, although Australia has one of the highest IP and patent productions per capita in the world. We're probably down the bottom of the list in terms of commercialisation. And that's really not great. So trying to get through that valley of death, this money is there really to help that, take it from that tier L4, so not out of the lab, but actually once you've proven something, 3, 4, you've got it on a shelf and you want to commercialize it. And the other 6 trailblazers are up there, and I think the important one for us is the defense trailblazer. So big defense, small space, we're big space, small defense. What we would love to see is a joint collaboration between the defense trailblazer and iLAuNCH, and we're working in some ways to achieve that. So we've got 3 main focus areas for iLAuNCH. We've got our core commercialization projects, and I'll pull some of these out later. But I did mention industry pull. So we're looking for an industry partner to come to us and say, we want to build this stuff. If we can match you up with one of our university researchers or areas, or even build the capability, then we'll go to some way to doing that. The IP is very favourable to industry. This is not a CSE. The IP does not belong to the consortium. We will negotiate IP on an individual basis, but as far as the Department of Education is concerned, part of that transformation is get the IP out of the universities and get it commercialised. And the benefit for the university is to build capability so they can go hire more researchers and generate more IP. It's changing the model. And we're focused on a range of technologies. I know the acronym was a mouthful, but really anything to do with space, from ground systems, geopolymers, textiles, windings, composites, rocket engines, nozzles, internals, satellite systems, optics, you name it, we're interested. The second part of our pillar is the accelerator, and we're still developing this, but we have some millions to develop and cultivate young companies. So we're going to be developing a program. We're looking around the table at other programs. Something like UniSA ICC is a great program which I've been heavily involved in over the last few years. But we've also got things like CSIRO's On Prime program, which is also partnered with us, and other programs. So we're going to see how we can accelerate the industry, probably in 1 to 200K chunks, to get them to move from that tier L1 to up to 2 and 3. And then I think finally our third pillar, and this goes to Sanjay's point and everyone else's point actually about building the workforce of the future. We've got a diverse mandate to try and encourage youth and the workforce of the future. We're looking at things like a space degree, space-related degree. UNSW Canberra already has a sort of particular focus, as does other areas. But I really want to see a holistic approach to space education, and we can bring in business and law and psychology and actually try and maximise that input from a systems perspective. And we're looking to develop it with industry, and in fact one of our first micro-credentials courses, which has just been endorsed, which we're funding, is with an industry partner in Queensland, and they're going to be going around Australia to train and develop composites manufacturing for vocational education. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of 3 of our projects. So from UniSA, for example, they've taken a project that came out of Defence SA, the Defence Innovation Partnership, and that's looking at additive manufacturing, taking a complex substrate and then putting a mirrored coating on it. And why do you do that? Unlike normal lenses, you can pack a lot more in a small space and get a wider field of view. And that's being developed with DSTG and 2 of our companies here and UniSA. We've got a Hypersonics program. So on the back of Hayabusa 2, when it came back to Woomera some years ago, they put a camera up on a jet that's run by RTI out of Wellcamp in just west of Brisbane. And they did the photographs of the re-entry. So looking for plasma and other aspects from high-speed re-entry. That project will most likely be our first commercial project, as we've found a partner in the US who are going to put some pharmaceuticals in space, deorbit it, bring it back to Earth, and they want to film that re-entry to make sure that everything's working. And then the final example is working with ANU. We've got 4 great partners there, Leonardo UK and Australia. We've got Spiral Blue and Nominal Systems partnered with ANU to take Leonardo's chip, which is a Mercad telluride shortwave infrared chip, pack it all together and then put it into space. And that's, again, pushing that tech level. And that's just a quick example. A quick snapshot of our partners, but we are looking for more. We have money to spend, so please come and see us. We've got to commit that money by the end of this year, not financial year, but by the end of the year. Otherwise, it'll go back to the department. And then finally, that's a contact list. ANU is Anna Moore, and for the University of South Australia, please speak to Colin Hall. But also my team, I'd ask you to approach myself or our CTO, COO, or any of the people on that list and come to us with your project proposals. Yeah, thanks very much.